Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go.
All right, welcome to today's episode. We have RJ Pepino and David Payerchin on the line today out of Ohio. They are partners. We're going to talk a lot about rentals. We're going to get into a lot of different great topics. I'm excited to have them. They're doing over 100 deals a year. I've been in the business, I think over 15 years now, so lots of experience. So looking forward to having you guys. This is the first time I've had a team on my podcast. So welcome on and looking forward to diving into some good things today.
Hey, we got the gray hairs to prove it. Every single gray hair that your listeners or viewers see, every single one of those is a deal that's gone bad. So we're definitely diving into today.
Dude, that's a lot of deals. I hate to say it, man, but that's a lot of deals that went bad. I used to say I had like a handful of gray hairs, and I'd say that's for every sister I have. It's like, and then more start coming in, and it's like, yeah, man, it's probably bad deals. You're right. So
RJ's grays are coming. He's got a baby coming any day now. I'll be at the hospital with this guy. He's about to be he's going to look like Santa Claus here real soon.
Congrats, man. I got a 16-month-old, man. You're in for about 6 to 9 months of torture, but then after that it gets better. So just a fair warning to you.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Happy to be here, brother. Happy to be here, man.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for jumping on, guys. So, we were talking just a little bit before we started about single family. We were getting ready to jump into, and I'm like, let's just hit record and get going on it. So the first thing, or one of the things you said before we jumped on, David, was talking about single family rentals. Right now, the market's hot. Things are appreciating. It's a great time to sell, but at the same time, prices are going up. So we talked about that a little bit. And then you said single family rentals are better than multifamily. So there's some people that would say some, different. But let's just jump into that topic real quick. So I think we're in the same boat. We both have, around or over 100 rental properties. We buy and flip, we wholesale, we do all kinds of different things. So what is your reasoning by saying single family rentals are better than multifamily?
Oh, let me count the ways. I mean, come on. We got a global pandemic going on. Number one, nobody wants to be living in an apartment when they have to work from home and homeschool their kids. And, they're crawling all over each other. People are afraid of this virus that's going on. So the demand for single family housing, number one, is through the roof. The opportunities are far more abundant within single families. There's way more of them out there. You can buy them more creatively. The financing is better for single family than you could get on an apartment building right now. There's far more exit strategies for single family than you could do with an apartment. Let's say you run into a cash flow crunch. Well, you can't just pair off an apartment here and there. No, but you can with a portfolio of single family rentals. Everybody wants space right now. People are moving out of apartments. I mean, RJ, what have you been seeing in property management?
Yeah, so in our business, I oversee a lot of the property management and rehab and stuff like that. And what we're seeing is like an uptick with a lot of our prospects coming from apartments or coming from townhouses and duplexes kind of closer to downtown, wanting more space and going into the suburbs and into rural areas. We have some single family homes kind of outside of in those outer pockets of Columbus. That's kind of where we do our the majority of our business. And it's funny because a lot of them are also asking for, more space. Like, hey, do you have, extra room in the basement for their pets? And it's just in the last 4 months, we have seen a lot more apartments going to houses, prospects going from apartments to houses than houses to houses, which is what typically you would see. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting how that has changed where we're at, but there's many more aspects of why we think and we feel that based on our experience that single families are way better than apartments.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a guy the other day. He syndicated over 2,000 apartment units, and he's shifting to single family because he's like, he just can't syndicate deals anymore. He said that he didn't exactly say why, but I'm guessing it's because people are moving out of apartments. It's maybe harder to find deals because the apartments out there are, have appreciated so much, and maybe people owe too much on them now to be able to sell them for what's needed. But I think Dave, you spat off about 10 reasons why single family is great. And I totally agree. You can find them cheaper, more exit strategies. It's easier to sell $100,000 house than it is a $10 million apartment complex. I guess the only caveat that I would say that is if you can find an apartment complex that is a good deal that needs work, that you can improve it and increase the rents, you can do 100 apartment units, probably about the same you could maybe let's call it 10 single family houses. So, there's both sides of that, but I agree overall.
That's the number one argument, not to cut you off, Tony, but that's the number one argument is the scalability factor, right? You can scale apartments much faster, but what good deals on apartments? Sure, you got your pros out there. We could rattle off the names. Those are unicorns, though. They're, the day-to-day investor who's looking for apartments are paying too much. They're going to get hammered, right? People are paying way too much for apartments. There's just not a lot of good deals. And one thing we didn't mention, Tony, is you could buy creatively single family homes. I mean, we buy subject to deals constantly, and that's where the loan stays in the seller's name and we get the ownership, we get the deed. We do this all day long. You can't do that with apartments. It's a no-brainer. The only argument that the apartment investors have, and they won't even debate me. I would love to debate anyone on your podcast who argues, for the case of apartments. No, the only thing they have is, scalability. The average investor, Tony, they can't even find one deal. I mean,
you're right.
You're sitting around, you're saying you're an apartment investor. There's a handful of guys who are successful, and we're friends with all of them. I mean, they do a tremendous job. They're phenomenal. I'm talking about the day-to-day investor, the day-to-day listener to your podcast. Guys, get involved in single family, learn creative real estate, build a portfolio of what our mentor, Jack Miller, calls horizontal apartments. It is far more beneficial to own a portfolio of single family rentals than it is one apartment building. You're going to be waiting around forever to find one apartment building that's a good deal. There are no good deals out there.
So tell me, you said you added 50 apartments or 50 houses rather. Sorry, I didn't mean to say apartments. 50 houses in the last year or so that you added to your portfolio. Was that a package property? Were those just deals that you bought one off that you just decided to add? So what made you decide to keep those as rentals as opposed to just flipping those and making money in a hot market right now where you can get multiple offers on most houses?
RJ's got that one. What you got, RJ?
So, I mean, a lot of the houses that we buy are in areas where we have multiple exit strategies. So if we, through our marketing come across a house that's just not in the area, then we can wholesale it, right? So our sweet spot, we like to stay in, still in the affordable price points, but in B class and A class zones. And we would love to hold on to that, but we would love to sell it for a profit right now, but we can still sell the ones that don't fit our model, not the best ones. We were now able to cherry pick the best ones because of the marketing that we do. So the 50 that we've added, they're all the best ones. And we have these funds who are willing to pay more. So why not? Yeah, we'll wholesale to them all day. Right when the pandemic hit, it was a great decision for us to not take down big rehabs. We like to stay in where we can do a cosmetic rehab, be in and out of it within a couple weeks, put it right into the leasing department and get it leased, and we're in and out of it. You know what I mean? We did some big rehabs when we were doing a lot of turnkey flipping, right? The whole let's sell the rentals away, and that was a good business. But we weren't focusing on our own portfolio. And so once we said, hey, we're not doing that anymore, let's focus on building this. we saw a lot more. We increased our net worth, we increased our cash flow, and we're just a lot more profitable, in my opinion, with less headache. And that allowed us to actually go from a brick and mortar type office to go virtually. So we're happy with that.
Yep. Not to cut you off, my brother, but yes, as RJ alluded to, we are 100% virtual. But let me ask you, I mean, Tony, you do a ton of deals. You own a bunch of rentals. For your day-to-day listener who's just focused on wholesaling, what is the tax bracket for a wholesale deal? Well, right? Like, so if you are not, and I'm speaking to your listeners right now, if you are not taking advantage of the opportunities to buy and hold right now, not only the low interest rates, but the tax benefits, it's called depreciation. You probably talk about it on the podcast, right? It's like, guys, so yes, we continue to wholesale. We still wholesale. We're not against wholesaling. You know, it fills the cash flow gaps, but that is highly taxable income, Tony.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, because you want to make a lot of money, but then you want to pay as little taxes as possible. So it's interesting, because I've been in business 19 years now, and I think the first 12 to 15 years I paid pretty much zero taxes, because I loaded up on rental properties a long time ago. I'm able to depreciate them.
That's
and
right.
I bought a building a couple of years ago. So speaking of taxes, and I'm not giving tax advice, but I'm telling you what I did. So I bought a building about 2 years ago, and we put I think it was about $1.5 million into it. And there's what's called accelerated depreciation now. So on commercial real estate,
that's right,
you can take accelerated depreciation on stuff like carpet, I think paint, parking lots. You know, there's things that in the tax code, if it can be depreciated under 5 years, or maybe 10 years, I can't remember the number, you can now take it
20 years, bro.
Yeah.
I think you can go on 20 years, bro.
I think you're right. I think it's 20 years. You can now depreciate it and write it off in the first year. So I've got over $1 million worth of write-offs that I can use from last year to this year. But that's on the commercial side. On the residential side, you can depreciate. And I'm sure there's some creative ways you can take the renovations you're doing and write those off as well. So you're right. There are so many tax benefits that you can take advantage of. And if you're just flipping and wholesaling, you know, if you make, $500,000 a year, that's a huge, huge tax liability. So for people that are making big money by not flipping some of those houses, they lower their tax bracket and they get the depreciation. You put a lot more money in your pocket. So I'm guessing that's kind of what you're alluding to.
Well, not only that, but the leverage available to us now, the low interest rates, the artificially low interest rates available to us all right now. I think every single one of your listeners, every single person hearing this should maximize every dollar, borrow as much long-term, low-interest debt as you possibly can, and secure it against cash-flowing real estate. I don't know how you lose in that trade.
So on your long-term stuff, are they 30-year fixed? Because a lot of the stuff I do is local lenders. They, I've got a lot of lines of guidance lines with them, but it's a 5-year term and a 20-year AM. There's a lot of guys that are doing 30-year fixed. The interest rate's a little bit higher. Are you guys doing fixed for 30 years, or do you adjust after a certain amount of time?
Well, I mean, and RJ knows as well, it's like the golden 10. Like, you're allowed 10 conventional mortgages in your name, 10 conventional mortgages in your spouse's name or your business partner's name. And that's where you're going to get the 30-year fixed rate mortgages. But yeah, maximize those ones first. And then you pretty much got to go with what they'll give you. There's a lot of 20-year AM products out there, but maximize those golden 10 first. You can get 3% 30-year money right now. Take advantage of that. Every single one of your listeners should be doing that.
Your guys are getting 3% money?
Only because we can't get 2.5% money, but yeah.
Yeah, I've seen.
There's people out there right now with primary residences getting 2.5% money all day. I mean,
for sure, primary. So primary residence, you get a lot lower interest rate. But as far as long-term rentals, I imagine that's probably closer to the 4s, maybe 5%.
No, 3.25
really
for the conventional. Absolutely.
Are those national lenders you're dealing with?
Excuse me?
Are those national lenders you're dealing with?
No, local.
Okay.
Yeah, local credit unions, local banks, they'll give you 3.25 for those golden 10, but once you step out of that golden 10, you're exactly right. You're going to be in the fives, you know.
Gotcha. Well, cool. So you guys have been in business 15 years now. There's a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, but there's quite a few people I know that were in business even 10 years ago that are out of business for whatever reason. So to start a business is one thing. To find your first deal is really tough. Like you mentioned, I can't remember if it was on the podcast or before we started talking. A lot of people have trouble finding their first deal, let alone, flip hundreds of deals or be in business 15 years. What do you guys think has got you from where you started to lasting as long as you have and being strong 15 years later?
And I want RJ to answer that, but also keeping a business partnership together. Tony, in your experience with this podcast and all your experience in real estate, how many business partnerships have lasted as long as me and RJ? I mean,
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I've had many partnerships and none of them lasted. So I totally know how hard it is.
Yeah.
RJ, what's the key to success, brother?
So, a lot of it has to do with like your innate core values between you and your partner. If it's way, way far off, it's just not going to last. It might last for a couple of years,
Yep.
right? And it might work in gel. So being on the same page there, but then also open communication, being transparent, having asking help when you need help, right? We've been very good at, reaching out to our network, right? And we're just talking about this. We're talking about a network we were part of several years ago, and we're still part of that network. It's utilizing your network and getting the ego out of the way to say, hey, I need help, and reaching out to them, and then implementing what you learned, and failing, implementing what you learned again, making adjustments with the market. We've always been in the single family space, but our start was in the C class. It was hard, but that's where we had our private money was pretty expensive, and that's where the numbers were. And so as we got better, as we were able to decrease the amount of interest rates that we're paying our private lenders, we were able to get into better asset classes and be in a better position now. But those are some of the key things. I would say that having a business partner like Dave and knowing kind of now, because we've been seeing each other every day and know what makes the other person tick and the compliments of each other. Bounce off ideas. Sometimes it's so crazy, like we'll finish off sentences and we know what each other's thoughts are. It's crazy, right? It's like a best friend almost. So it's like like a brotherhood. But keeping that intact, your core values intact, is very key and important. And I think that's helped us through some of the tough times, especially as we were building this and having to worry about closing the next deal to keep the lights on in the beginning. It's like, man, we've done a lot, and so we've grown upon that. But it's those are what I would say is kind of one of the key factors that kept us close, is like having some really core values that we had that we laid on. What do you?
So usually there's a visionary and an integrator in a company. With really successful companies, there's a visionary like a Steve Jobs that knows where they want to go. They got this big vision, Elon Musk kind of personality. And then there's the integrator that likes to integrate and actually be kind of behind the scenes, integrating things, managing things, the small details. Which one of you is a visionary integrator, or are you guys both the same?
It's very difficult to say, but we've been able to build a team now of 12 people underneath us. So we kind of share a visionary role. RJ and I are both very much fire first, aim second kind of guys. We love making money and we love helping other people make money. And so we've been able to build a team and be co-visionaries, I would say. RJ, correct me if you disagree, and then kind of empowering people on our team to be that integrator role, like, operations manager to handle that. So we can, like, the greatest part about having a team for me personally, I mean, I would put myself, and I would put RJ in the same category as like a visionary. Is like, we know what to do. And the best way to get anything done is to delegate it for like either one of us. Like, either one of us caught up in the details of building this, that, and the other. It's like, it's not serving either one of us. Like, we're both very, very firm on our thesis, very firm on our vision. I feel like we're making the right plays, and that's what we talk about. RJ and I are like, I would consider us both co-visionaries, and neither one of us wants to be wrapped up in the nonsense of integrating. So we've empowered a team, and RJ does a great job. I mean, RJ is a far better manager, I would say, of people than me. I'm probably too emotional. I would say I'm more of a sales guy. I'm close the deal and just kind of like win people over if that's a thing. But that's more my thing. RJ is more methodical, more disciplined. RJ, would you agree?
Yeah, so a lot of what you just said, Tony, about like visionary integrator and all that, we implemented EOS. We implemented the culture index or predictive index profiles, and it came back as, hey, we noticed that we had a ton of visionaries in our team, 2 or 3 years ago, and we're like, well, why? Because we're hiring people like us,
Yes.
Dave and I definitely have both traits. I tend to have a little bit better integrating traits than Dave, but Dave also has better visionary traits, right? So we complement each other that way. And so we decided, like, hey, we need a full-blown integrator, a full-blown operations manager, and we found somebody to do that in our company now. We have a team, but we did that culture index, and I came back at like an architect type, and a not so friendly architect, but Dave was like a very super friendly architect. It was weird, but that's our dynamic, So we have checkpoints when we're like, I wonder if we can do this, I wonder if this is a good idea. I'm like, Then the other one, Dave will probably like, yeah, but that would probably take, this amount of time and this amount of effort in us, and we probably could work smarter, So we always bounce ideas off each other, and he likes what I call the sniff test, like, hey, here's kind of an idea that I have. What do you think of this? And he'll go through it and try to poke holes at it. And if you can't poke holes at it, then it's like, all right, I think we can implement this. I think this would work. Same thing with Dave. Dave will be like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about this? And so I look at it, and I'm looking at it all ways. And if it's something I can poke holes and it's not a good idea, then we both agree. Like, we have a thing where if we can't agree on something, then we're just not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In partnerships, you'll see that one person really wants to do something so bad that it's like, it's more thinking about themselves versus then thinking as like a team and a unit and as a whole. I think we've done that really well to distinguish that.
Yeah. I want to point out something you said as far as, or kind of leading to is it's hard to have, because I used to try and hire people like me too. I'm like, why can't you be like me? Why can't you, and it's like, no, you can't have too many of the leader. It just doesn't work. So you've got to hire someone that complements you. Like for me, I'm the same way. It's ready, fire, aim. Like that's me. I'm like, let's go. I need that person behind me picking up the pieces saying, wait a second, Tony, you need to slow down. You need to stop this, or I need to organize you, and that kind of thing. So you've got to have those people that complement you and that make sure that, like you said, they're like, can kind of rein you in a little bit. Cause I'll start 10 different companies tomorrow, and I need people to say, wait a second, let's get this one, where we need to, and then move on to the next one. So it's interesting, the dynamics, and it's great that you guys have gone 15 years because, the longest partnership I think I had was probably maybe 5 years, and they all ended up okay in the end, but they didn't last. It's usually because, our goals weren't aligned. Expectations maybe weren't, put forth in the beginning. So I commend you guys, and I can tell you guys, seems like you guys are pretty good friends too and run a good organization. And I think that's another big thing is the culture, right? You guys probably have built over the years a good culture. So when someone comes in your organization, if they don't fit in your culture, they're out. And if they do fit in your culture, then they probably succeed and thrive in your culture. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what 12, 15 people, I think you said you had in your organization. What are some things, along with EOS, that you, I guess, implemented in your company that kind of helped you guys to grow and be where you are now?
Talk about how we
I'll take this one. So I'll tell you this. RJ's parents came from another country, from the great country, the Philippines.
I knew you were going to
My
say that. I'm
dad,
actually half Filipino.
there
Ah,
you go. Well,
Yeah.
and it's probably why you're so good looking. You know, RJ's the look, I'm more the voice.
Thanks, Dave.
You know, like my parents did whatever it takes, worked fast food. You know, so what we share is grit and not giving up. Like the core value is like not quitting. Like we are not entitled individuals, Tony. We are not individuals who sit around and wait for the phone to ring and hopefully we'll get a deal today. We're going to get out there and put life in a stranglehold and get things done. And that's what we share. That is the core value of a blue collar white boy like me, or a son of an immigrant family who's worked their ass off like RJ. Like that's what we care. There's no excuses. And we're not hurting anyone. We're just not going to accept mediocrity. We're not going to accept, just waiting for things to come to us. We will make it happen. And that is just what we share. And I think there's a lot of great, Americans, blue collar Americans, out there. And like with that work ethic, your listeners, I'm sure, same as you, Tony. I mean, you got the same work ethic. It's like, you got to get out there and make it happen. That's what RJ has in his mind every day. He wakes up, I'm going to make it happen. I wake up, I'm going to make it happen. We've got to make this happen. So we attract people with that same ideology in their mind, and it's just not this like, we're not this like silver platter kind of guys who are like, life has been handed to us and everything, all our bills have been paid. No, we've struggled. I filed bankruptcy before, Tony. I was in real estate back in, 05 is when I started. I went under in 07, 08 before I met RJ, and I'll tell you this, I've been at the bottom of bottoms, and so is RJ, and I've been. It's never the top of the top because we take nothing for granted. That's just the mentality we carry. RJ, would you agree?
yeah, everything that you said, Dave, is spot on. And one thing that I will add is that we work our butts off, Tony, but we also like to have fun and keep it light too. And so we change things up a lot in our meetings, because everyone hates meetings, right? It's like, all right, we got another meeting, and EOS is all about meetings, but we try to keep it fun. We want people having fun, but also making a ton of money. And that's what we bring to our culture and our team. And, when we went virtual, everybody loved being virtual. I mean, we were kind of thinking like, well, we like it, because we can, we're the owners and we can go and, maybe take a phone call. We're in Puerto Rico, or we're in California, or we're in whatever,
Yeah.
and, but we were like, I wonder if the team likes this. And we introduced this idea of going virtual. It was just embraced. It was the best thing. Everyone loved it. Everyone loves working from home. And so that, I just wanted to add that, like, we like to have fun. You got to enjoy your hard work,
Yeah,
so,
totally. So how hard do you guys work? So obviously you work hard, but do you guys work nights? Do you guys work weekends? Like, what is your guys' schedules look like?
I'll be upfront with you. I'll take the start of that one, RJ. Like when we were first starting out, it was a nonstop grind, like night and day. And RJ's a beautiful bride. In fact, I'll let the cat out of the bag. RJ has his first child coming here in the next week or so. But when we were first starting out, he was just dating his wife, and and she had to go through that as well with us. Would you agree, RJ? I mean, like all we did was work, bro. Like all through our 20s, like all we did, well, when it was just us, it was me, RJ, a spreadsheet, and a shoebox full of receipts. That's how we started a portfolio of north of 130 properties and buying more and this, that, raising private capital. Everything started with phone calls, hard work. We would take a call at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. There's no, time. There's no punching in, punching out. It's like, we've got to make this happen. So in the early days, it was nonstop, but we are finally at a place where we can empower a team, and that's what we're all about, is bringing on a team. But if any one of your listeners is just starting out, you better get your ass to work. That's what RJ's going to tell you. Like, what are you talking about? You're in your 20s and you think you just got to like sit back and hire some people and you be successful. No, you got to do whatever it takes. RJ, are you with me on that one?
Absolutely, man. And so nowadays it's, we have our daily huddles, and it takes about half an hour throughout our day. And it's just kind of like managing and popping in when we have to either mentor somebody or, train them on something new, that it's something completely new. We have our operations manager now. So a lot of the day-to-day stuff is something that we don't do. What we're creating now is, obviously we have, a mastermind that we're creating, or we're enjoying doing content videos and talking about the market. And that's kind of like what we're doing. Well, that's what we're up to now. Before it was taking the phone calls, going out, the inspections. Now, if I'm going to go to a property, I'm shooting a video to show somebody how to do what we do, because that's part of this, other side of the business that we're building here. So it's a different, in the last couple of years, 3 years, probably it's a little bit more different than when we were starting out, but we've been there. So none of the stuff that our team's doing, we haven't done, besides like, with the hammer and getting the drywall up. I mean, we have contractors to do that, but every other aspect of the business we've done.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you something, and not to cut you off, RJ, but for your listeners, Tony, and you've been there as well. You've taken action. You have a portfolio. You're doing deals, right? It's that fearlessness. If we can instill anything into your listeners, you've got to surround yourself around people who are going to help you get through the fear, because we're still afraid. I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, there's fear. We make big moves just like you do, right? So surround yourself around people. That's what I get from RJ. Shit. I mean, we make moves, and sometimes it's scary, man. In the early days, there's a lot of fear. And if you could surround yourself around people to help you who've been there already, to get through the fear aspect, become fearless, and you will become successful.
Yeah, you shared something. I appreciate you sharing your story about 2008. I mean, obviously, some of that was out of your control, the real estate crash and that kind of thing. But that's, people look at real estate investors that are successful and think, oh, they have it made. They, have had it easy, or maybe they had something handed to them or whatever. And you guys, I think, in their same boat, where I started my business from scratch and had to work my ass off to get where I am now. Didn't have family with money. We're middle class, you're always, not always, but there's going to be times where you have your down periods, and I used to take those down periods and think that I was a failure when I got down. But looking back now, it's like, man, those are the times that make you. Those are the times that you rise up, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you figure out how to make things happen. And now 20 years later, it's like, if something like what happened, 10 years ago, where I had to fire my whole staff and basically start over from scratch, if that ever happened again, I think I can handle it 10 times better now, because I've been through so many ups and downs. So I think those, I think those down periods are really what makes you, and really makes you grateful for where you are.
It's extremely difficult to embrace the down periods, though. I think anyone,
when you're
especially
in them,
RJ, would agree. Yeah. But I'll tell you, I mean, if we're keeping it real, me being the more emotional person, the down periods hurt me more than him. So I've always had a strong, crutch to lean on, even during the big swings. But hey, to any one of your listeners who are just starting out, embrace the swings the best you possibly can. It's very easy to say and very difficult to do, but just surround yourself around the right people, I feel, is very good advice, and we're not talking about people who have just come up, and, older wisdom is few and far between, and, and surround yourself around people who have done it, people like you, Tony. You practice what you preach. Same with guys like us, and we're happy to help people. But I'm telling you, don't get caught up in the shiny object syndrome. Oh, I'm going to do real estate and be in business for a year and this, that, and the other. This is a grind. I'm sure you agree. And surround yourself around the people who are going to just help you understand that these downtimes are actually beneficial in the long run.
Yeah. And you're right. You do have to grind in the beginning because there's so many things you have to put together, and you're probably starting with little money. But there are ways to leverage yourself so that at some point you have to figure out, just like you guys did with hiring your team, how to leverage yourself, leverage resources, leverage mentors, leverage, mastermind groups if you're in them. Surround yourself with the right people. 10 years ago when I had my big, probably the worst bottom I've ever been in, I didn't have anybody to go to, right? I just, I'd been divorced. I just put my head down and just kind of grinded through it. Now, if something like that happened, I've got dozens of people in my network that I could say, hey man, something's going on. What do I do? And now I've got a Rolodex of people. I say Rolodex, I've got an iPhone full of people that I can text or phone, jump on a call with and say, hey man, I need some help. So good advice, man. So any last words that you guys want to leave to our listeners that can help them, whether they're starting off right now or they're already a seasoned real estate investor?
I got one. I want to just say that,
RJ first, and then I'll bring us home.
Probably the biggest thing that always gets in our way is it's ourselves, it's our pridefulness. We're all proud of our accomplishments, and sometimes when things are good, we tend to kind of take our foot off the gas pedal, and we get complacent. So just be careful in those times. Like we understand that when times are good is actually when you actually have to hustle a little bit more, like hustle harder, like work. I mean, we're all about working smarter, right? We worked hard in the beginning. Now we can work smarter and use leverage and stuff like that. But when times are good is when you have to be on your toes at all times, because that's when you need to really look around you and say, okay, I'm here. And what's the next level? It's who, not the how at this point. It's who, who can help me there, or who is the person that we need to hire or use for leverage to get to that next level. So in the good times, especially right now, since, the pandemic hit and it's okay now. And then the real estate prices are back and houses are selling, inventory's down. So if you got a really good deal on a house, you can easily sell it, and times are good and things are selling well. Don't be complacent, stay on your toes, because that's how you're going to sustain it. Because, as a lot of people think that real estate's like get rich quick, you'll definitely get rich. You will, if you hang in there and stay persistent. But in the good times is when you need to be very aware of what's going on in your company.
And when things are going well, that's usually when the money's coming in. It can easily go out and you not know where it goes, right?
Oh yeah. What about you, Dave?
If I was to piggyback on that, I'm just going to say this, man. Like, we're talking about leveraging a staff. We didn't start out with a staff. Me and RJ didn't have our first assistant for 4 years in business. I mean, we've done every single role in this company. We can do it all, from acquisitions to dispositions to leasing to managing a rehab, and we get it. So my closing point would be, don't try to outsource stuff that you don't know how to do yet yourself. Get your ass in there, get your nose bloody, figure it out, because what you're going to do if you don't understand something you're trying to outsource, right? Or at least understand it. You don't need to even know the specifics of a spreadsheet. If we're talking admin work or something like that, but you got to know what the end result looks like, and you got to understand things before you outsource it, and if you have this fear inside of you where it's like, well, it's like a little bit scary to me, that's the one thing. Gary Keller's book, the one thing for me, man, is hanging in there during these crazy, frustrating times where I'm trying to read financial reports and stuff like that. You can't outsource certain things until you understand what to look for. So before, if you're just starting out, man, and you're about to bring on an admin, or you're about to bring on an acquisitions person, you better kind of like understand your business to a level to where you can outsource it, if that makes any sense. Or else what you're going to do, if you don't really get it and you can't clearly train or clearly explain what this person's going to do, they're going to fail. And then if your ego is too big, you're going to blame them and not take responsibility that you didn't train them well enough. And you're just going to be on a perpetual downward spiral. Like, you got to get your ass in there and understand your business to a level before you start outsourcing and whatnot. That would be my 2 cents.
Cool, man. Well, good stuff, guys. I appreciate. We're over time. You wanted to go 20 minutes, Dave. I wanted to go 30. We went 40. So
I went 15, bro. You kept us. It's because you're so interesting, Tony. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you having us on here, brother. Very much, man.
Absolutely, man. Congrats on your success, guys. I'm proud of the organization you built. Not a lot of people can build a team out and be successful in it. So congrats, man. Look forward to connecting again soon. And thanks for everything you provided to our listeners today.
Thanks, Tony.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.